Alright, I have my iPad here and we're going to talk about all of my quarter 1 reading stats. It is very gloomy outside, it is raining on and off, so sorry if you hear the rain in the background. Let's just call it some nice ASMR, but let's go ahead and dive into my reading stats that I keep track of for the first quarter. So first, I want to talk about my progress of reading down my own TBR. If you are new here, I have been trying to read down my own TBR for the past couple of years. When I started tracking it last year, I was at 341 books, but I've started 2026 out with 151 books on my TBR, so let's go through some of these numbers. For my ebooks, I started off with 31 books. I acquired 12 more. I've read 3 of them and I DNF'd 2 of them, leaving 38 unread, which is up by 7, so definitely not good progress there, but I do have plans to try and read a lot of these books for an upcoming video. I think I want to try doing like an arc reading vlog because a lot of these books that I've gotten are NetGalley arcs. For my audiobooks, I started at 32. I acquired 11, read 1, and DNF'd 2, so again, not good progress. I'm now up to 40 unread audiobooks, which is up by 8. This one, I honestly don't really have an excuse other than I'm part of the Libro.fm influencer review program. So every month I get to select up to 10 books that I want to read for free basically in order to like review them to you guys. And obviously the reviewing portion has not been there because I haven't really been reading them, but I do always have a hard time passing up free books. So anytime I see one on there that they are offering, I usually take it if I have any sort of interest in it, which I definitely need to focus more on reading those audiobooks. I have read a lot of audiobooks this year, which we'll get into when I get into my more reading stats of like the actual books that I've read, but I've just read a lot of audiobooks specifically from my library, which I do also love, but it's not exactly helping my owned TBR situation. For physical books, I started off with 88 books and then I acquired 5 more. I am trying to do a low buy to like a no buy sort of thing for this year. Obviously, I have acquired 5 physical books, although we'll get more into that in just a moment. I have read 6 of the books off of my physical TBR, and that leaves me with 87 unread physical books, which is down by 1, so this is the only one I've made progress with. It is very slight progress, but I am happy with any sort of progress, so yeah. As far as this whole reading down my TBR progress goes, I will say that April probably won't be helping out with this challenge just because in April I'm participating in the Read Your Library Readathon challenge, and yeah, I'm basically going to be reading a lot more books from my library in April, but hopefully May and June we see some more progress there. So moving on to the books I have acquired this year, I've acquired 28 books, which is quite a lot considering the amount of books that I've read, which we'll get to in just a moment. But 6 of these books I acquired in January, 9 I acquired in February, and then the last 13 I acquired in March. These numbers have gone up every single month, which is definitely not good, and I definitely need to fix that in April. However, for these 28 books, I have only spent $42.55 in total, which averages out to about $1.52 per book, which I think is pretty good. Again, I get a lot of my books through NetGalley or through Libro.fm. They're like influencer programs, so a lot of these books I haven't paid any money for. I do have one outlier. I bought one book in March for full price, which was $32, I want to say. So that made up a big chunk of this $42 that I spent in the first quarter. But again, I feel like $42 is not that much for the amount of books that I acquired, so I am still fairly happy with that. And again, these 28 books that I acquired, the only reason I'm not more upset by it is because in the first quarter I also read 28 books. And while these 28 books are not all books that I owned that I read, I am still keeping up with the same amount that I'm reading, and I'm not like over buying books that I won't even be able to get to because of my reading pace. So 28 books acquired and 28 books read. I'm pretty happy with that balance. I also checked out 24 books from my library, and this is something new that I'm tracking, but if I had bought those books at full price in whatever format it was, it would have costed me $529.69. So saving over $500 by using the library is really good, and it makes my $42 seem like nothing. But yeah, that is something new I wanted to track. I definitely want to use my library more and just see the money that I'm saving. That way it makes me less likely to buy more books. But yeah, I'm very proud of that one. All right, moving on to my general stats of the books I read. Like I mentioned, I read 28 books this year. 7 of those I read in January, 8 I read in February, and 13 I read in March. I read a total of 8,860 pages, and I had a 3.5 average rating, which I feel like is really good. I tend to have a lower average rating most of the time, just because I am a pretty harsh reviewer, and it takes a lot for me to give a book a high rating. 21 out of the 28 books that I read included some sort of representation within the main characters. 15 were written by BIPOC authors, and 6 of them were written by openly queer authors. This one is a little harder to track just because a lot of authors aren't open with their sexuality, but 6 of them, where like on their author website or whatever, are explicitly saying that they identify as part of the LGBTQ plus community, and so I do want to keep track of that as well. 18 of the books that I read were by new to me authors, and 10 were by authors I have previously read before. Breaking down the genres that I read 4 fantasy, 2 historical fiction, 4 horror and 1 literary fiction, 5 nonfiction, 10 romance, and 2 sci-fi books. Breaking down the format that I read them in, 13 of these were books that I hybrid read, so I was reading them in 2 or more formats at the same time, which is usually how I prefer to read. Even if I'm reading a book physically, I will either have the ebook or audiobook of it. That way when I'm not home and I'm like traveling or something, I can still keep reading that same story. That is just typically how I prefer to read. 10 of these were solely ebooks, 4 were physical, and then I had 1 that I read solely as an audiobook. 21 of these books were traditionally published and 7 were indie published. 26 were adult titles and 2 were YA titles. And I did only have 2 books this quarter that I rated 5 stars, and then I also had 2 books that I rated 4.5 stars, which I also consider those wins. Overall, I'm pretty happy with where these stats are. There's not really much that I want to change with them. Obviously, I would love more 5-star reads and to get my average rating higher, but there's only so much I can do to make that happen. I already read and pick up books that I'm like solely interested in, and I DNF books fairly quickly if I'm not enjoying them. So there's not much I can do to sort of make myself get more 5-star reads. As much as I would love for them and I'm hoping for them, there's not much I can do there, but I guess if I had to pick something to change, that would obviously be it. Other than that, I'm pretty happy with where all of my stats are and with how I'm tracking everything. This quarter, I spent pretty much the entire 3 months doing the 75 booked reading challenge, which I did a whole video wrapping that challenge up, and I have an entire playlist dedicated to talking about all the books that I read. And so while in this video I was going to sort of really fast go through every book that I read in the first 3 months, I pretty much did that in the 75 booked wrapped video that I did, so I don't want to do it again. And I also do monthly wrap-ups that of course I will have linked if you want to check them out. But yeah, I felt like it was kind of redundant to put all those books in this video, but yeah, I am pretty proud with how that challenge went. If you saw that video, you know it's not exactly a challenge I would do again, but I am proud of myself for at least completing a challenge that took 75 days. But the only book that I read in March that wasn't included in that 75 booked video is Book Lovers by Emily Henry, so I'm going to put it in here. I did finish this book in March, and I gave this one 4 stars. I really enjoyed it. But yeah, this one wasn't included, so I'm putting it here now. I did do 2 videos in the first quarter that I'm really proud of, and those were both vlogs that I did. The first one was where I read 5 books that you all recommended to me. I had a lot of fun doing that video. I read a lot of books out of my comfort zone. And then the second video was where I was mood reading books that I was predicting to be 5 stars. I really loved that video, It was definitely a longer one, but that is the one where I found my only 2 5-star books that I read this quarter, so I was really proud of that one as well. As far as what I'm hoping to achieve in the next quarter, I am expecting myself to read quite a bit more just because I am in college and my last classes end in April, and so I will have about 2 weeks before my summer classes start. But over the summer, I'm only taking 2 courses, and so I'm definitely going to have like a lighter school workload and everything, and I'm gonna have a lot more time to read. So I'm just kind of predicting that I will be reading more books, and that means I'll also have like more time to do some cool challenge videos that I've been wanting to do. I've definitely wanted to do another 24-hour readathon video, but we will see. And yeah, I'm kind of just really looking forward to having more reading time, more time to be more creative on here and just see where things go. But like I said, I'm pretty happy with where my stats are. So as long as things don't change too much, I will be pretty happy. In April, like I said, I'm doing the Read Your Library Readathon. So April will pretty much be spent reading a lot of library books. But in May and June, I am definitely hoping to really work on all of my own books and focus a lot more on that. But those are my reading stats for the first quarter of 2026. I hope you all had an amazing first quarter yourselves. Definitely let me know if you keep track of any reading stats yourselves, and if you have a cool stat about your reading for the first quarter, definitely let me know. I would be very interested in hearing. But thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye!